Hi everyone, welcome to Lit Academy. This is Namrata Chatterjee. So as promised, we are here with our PYQ series based on the recent NTA NET exam English literature. So this is the merged cycle of 2020 and 2021 which we are going to discuss in the video. Make sure you like this video, you comment your suggestions for the upcoming videos and share it with your friends. So with that, let's begin. So the very first question I would like to discuss here about this exam on Virginia Woolf. So with Virginia Woolf, we mostly talk about To the Lighthouse and Mrs. Dalloway, all that. But here they asked a question on an essay written by Virginia Woolf, and that is Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Brown. They talked about what it is about. So they gave 4 options and you have to correct an option which is actually about Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Brown. So the question is like, in Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Brown, Virginia Woolf A analyzes the state of modern fiction by contrasting 2 generations of writers. B criticizes book buying preferences of the educated English class. C presents modernity as stable and coherent project uniting all artists. And D responds to E.M. Foster's remarks on the character in fiction. So the correct option here is analyzing the state of modern fiction by contrasting 2 generations of writers. And these 2 generations are Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Brown. So they represent 2 generations of writers and they analyze the state of modern fiction. And why she wrote this work? There's also one interesting story behind it, that there was a man called Arnold Bennett and he wrote a review of her works, Virginia Woolf, especially Jacob's Room, which was published in 1922. So he wrote this review. Bennett actually challenged modern writers' depiction of reality. So he had no personal agendas for against Virginia Woolf, but he did not like this, modern writers and their concept of writing. So he wrote this review, to which Virginia Woolf, as a response, she was provoked by this review and she wrote this work, Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Brown, as a response to that criticism by Arnold Bennett. So this Mr. Bennet actually is the character of Arnold Bennett from the real life, and Mrs. Brown is showing Virginia Woolf's character about modernity in this essay. So this is the answer. Option A is correct. Analyzes the state of modern fiction by contrasting 2 generations of writers. So this was the first question. Now moving on, the next question I would like to discuss is about Friedrich Nietzsche and the Western society. So there was a question that what 19th century philosophical terms of Russian origin did Friedrich Nietzsche use to describe the disintegration of traditional morality in Western society? So what was that? Is it A, absolutism, B, anarchism, C, cynicism, or D, nihilism? So first of all, you have to understand what these terms actually mean. Absolutism is the holding of absolute principles in political, philosophical, or theological matters. Means being absolutely holding on to any notion. Anarchism is the political belief that there should be no government or laws in a country. Means one man ruling everything. So that is anarchism. Cynicism is an attitude characterized by a general distrust of others' motives. When you doubt everything happening around, when you are questioning everything, when you are skeptical about things being correct or, worthy enough to trust. So when you have trust issues, then it is cynicism. But option D, nihilism, is the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. The doctrine of an extreme Russian revolutionary party, which found nothing to approve of in the established social order, It is the belief that nothing in the world has real existence. So now you tell me which one is, sounding correct. Because nihilism means rejecting everything, not, accepting any idea. So that is coming from Russian origin, and Friedrich Nietzsche used to describe it, the disintegration of traditional morality in Western society. So that is option D is correct, nihilism. Now moving on to the third question, which is based on chronology. So you must, remember dates of the important works in order to answer these kind of questions. So chronological order of publication, option A, T.S. Eliot, The Functions of Criticism. Then option B, Edgar Allan Poe, The Philosophy of Composition. Then option C, Henry James, The Art of Fiction. And option D, Virginia Woolf, Modern Fiction. So the options are B, C, A, D, B, C, D, A, C, B, A, D and C, B, D, A. So option B is correct here because it is with B, C, D, A. Edgar Allan Poe's Philosophy of Composition was published before. It was published in the year 1846. Then Henry James, The Art of Fiction, option C, which published in 1884. Then Virginia Woolf's Modern Fiction, published in 1919, which was later revised in 1925. And after that, T.S. Eliot's The Functions of Criticism, 1923. So this is the correct chronological order, and this is how you can answer these questions. But for that, you must remember the dates of important works. I've already shared how to remember dates. Whenever you take these works' name, always attach its date to it so that you subconsciously remember all the dates. When you take any work's name, automatically the dates would come in your mind. So now moving on to the fourth question, which is, which of these poets wrote a poem that served to inspire W.B. Yeats to write his own poem, which is When You Are Old? Is it Francois's Violin, Edmund Spenser, or Henrik Heine, or Pierre de Ronsard? So the correct option is Pierre de Ronsard, because he wrote a sonnet in his language, which is not in English. He wrote, and Yeats was, at that time, he was just 26-year-old when he wrote this, his own work, When You Are Old. It is based on a famous sonnet by Pierre de Ronsard, and he also wrote it to a girl he loved. Her name was Helen, and both the poems are, talking about this girl, that when she would be old, she would read these messages from her lover, and she would find that how much he loved her. So this beautiful woman would read all their letters, and she would, she would be a lady by that time, nodding by the fire, and she would read what her admirer, the poet, said about her. So Pierre de Ronsard's work, which is a sonnet, inspired W.B. Yeats to write this work called When You Are Old. So this is the question. Now moving on to the fifth question, which is comparatively quite easy because it is a direct question. Which of these is Ngugi Thiong'o's generally associated with? Is it decolonizing the body? Is it decolonizing the mind? Is it decolonizing the polity, or decolonizing the state? So you all must be aware of this writer, Ngugi Thiong'o. And he wrote this work called Decolonizing the Mind, which is option B. Option B is correct. And the full title of this work is Decolonizing the Mind, The Politics of Language in African Literature, published in 1986. It is a collection of essays which talks about language and its constructive role in a national culture, history, and their identity. The book advocates that any linguistic decolonization is still there, and we must come out of it. We should not consider English as the supreme language. We should also respect our own regional or national languages. So Ngugi Thiong'o is best known for his this non-fictional work, where he established himself as an eminent voice of the language debate in post-colonial studies. You would find that in post-colonial studies, every country is talking about how they should give importance to their own language, and they should not be in that still colonial era through their language and culture. They should come out of that era. So this work is divided into 4 essays: the language of the African literature, the language of African theatre, and the language of African fiction. Fourth, the quest for relevance. So these are the 4 different essays in which the decolonizing the mind is divided into. And if you wish to study all these works, all these questions in detail and get notes on them, then you must subscribe to our course, which is on Lit Academy for UGC NET English preparation. Even if you're in your masters and you're planning to give your NET in a year or 2, you must consider subscribing, because that would even help you in your masters, in your post graduation as well. So with that, I'm ending this video, and I would highly recommend you to join Lit Academy for the perfect preparation, because it has a minimal fees and it gives the maximum result. So do consider subscribing to that, and also you can subscribe to this YouTube channel because that is for free. Do share it with other literary buffs who are preparing for NET or otherwise, because we are planning to come out with more interesting videos in the future. So with that, take care and study well. Hope that helps. Thank you.